The British Library is home to 150 million books and magazines, and a copy of everything that's published in the UK ends up there. But it's unknown who wrote or published almost half the collection. And without details, these so-called orphan works can't be put online for legal reasons. The British Library is now urging the government to change the law so that a treasure trove of historic items can be widely seen. Our technology correspondent, Ben Cohen, reports.
Page by page, the British Library is painstakingly digitising its vast archive. Here, copyright isn't a problem. The author of this medieval manuscript is long dead. But for millions of newer items placed in the library's archives, copyright is an issue.
This was published by a company, but when we did some rights clearance work into it, we couldn't trace the rights holder, we couldn't get in touch with the publisher, we couldn't find the details of the author, so effectively we're not able to make the copies of it.
The library calls them orphan works, books, pamphlets and photos which don't come with enough details about who created them. Incredibly, there's an estimated 60 million in the library's archive. They include this beautiful 1920s children's book, 1980s political pamphlets, and even photographs of British-occupied Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, in the 1920s. Without the details of who owns the copyright, the law says they can't be put online.
Well, what we're looking for is either an exception or a licensing arrangement around copyright law that would allow us to make the copies and make them available online in a legal way.
But those representing publishers are worried that authors could lose out.
I think there is always a risk of publishing without consent. By doing something en masse, you'll miss the fact that not all the works may in fact be orphaned. You must go through a process of checking very thoroughly that you really cannot identify or trace the owners of those works.
Of course, all of these works can be viewed in person, but only in London, and it's not that easy even when you're there. The British Library says the cultural and historical value of opening up access to them outweighs any commercial concerns. The value of this project isn't just about bringing little-known curios like these back into the light of day, it's also how these works, once they're digitised, can be used by all of us. One new use is being able to search the texts of millions of books for the first time, speeding up the time it takes to discover new information buried in old works. A byproduct of the involvement of Google, who funded the digitisation of books by libraries for years and are keen to get involved in the Orphan Works project.
Presumably people have written books in the past so that those books can be read. There's a vast opportunity in the digitisation of books, and this is a really big project. If you look at books or if you look at cultural works more generally, imagine the possibilities if we can get a lot of that material online.
Google's had its fingers burnt in the States over the copyright of books. Over here, the government is attempting to draft legislation to reform copyright law. It hopes it can meet the concerns of publishing associations, so these long-forgotten orphan works won't be left on the shelf.